the following brands have in one way or another contributed to this video. Hey everyone, my name is Max, welcome to my channel, and in this video we're gonna take a very close look at Eventide Rose.
Gentlemen, this is the final rose tonight, when you're ready.
Okay, first of all, let's go to eventideaudio.com and try to figure out what Rose is. It says Rose is a modulated delay like no other. Reverse delays, slap back, chorus and everything in between. Rose is capable of producing a wide range of sounds, and we'll hear most of that in this video. 25 presets, wide range of delay times, modulation, reverse delay, selectable by pass, and it comes with an app to control it. Okay, here's more specs with numbers if you need that. 500 milliamps. As always, we'll double check it in this video. Non-existent dimensions. Okay, what else do we have here? Instructional videos, which are very useful because the manual that comes with the pedal doesn't really do the best job explaining how it works. In the US, you can find it at Sweetwater for $299 US, and in Europe for €389, which is more expensive, at Thomann. As always, links below, and please check them even if you don't need Rose, because every time somebody clicks those links, it helps the channel. Alright, it is time to open the box, and here's what it looks like. As you know, I'm in Europe, therefore I have the European version of the pedal, but the only difference is the power supply. We'll see that later. And now we can go to the next step. And here's what we have inside. A plastic bag with some stuff in it, a sticker, that's a big one, another sticker, 11 of roses, a pic with Eventide logo on it, a manual which looks pretty awesome. It explains all the functions but doesn't go too deep into details, so it's more like a quick start guide rather than a detailed instruction. Next thing in the box, rubber feet, which is pretty useful. I think I'll stick them to the pedal right away. And here's the power supply, the European version as I mentioned before. It's 9 volts center negative, 500 milliamps. And it has a green LED which reminds you to unplug it when you're done playing with the pedal. And that's it, I'll just unwrap the pedal and we'll take a closer look at it. At first sight, it is a simple delay pedal with modulation and a low-pass filter, but it actually is more complex than it looks. We have 3 knobs for delay section, delay, mix and feedback, low-pass filter, and 2 modulation controls. 2-foot switches with LEDs on the front, there's another big colorful source of light shaped as a rose in the center, Delta button, which is delay multiplier, Phi button, which is reverse, and preset and shape buttons on the front. On the side we have a USB connector, nothing here, nothing here, a sensitivity switch on the back, input, output, expression pedal or a foot controller jack, and a power connector. And on the bottom we have a short description of different boot modes. The weight of the pedal is 650 grams, or this much in pounds. And speaking of dimensions, and here is how it compares to some other pedals, just to give you a reference. And here's the real current consumption, which is around 400 milliamps, yeah, less than 500. As always on this channel, I take things apart, such as you don't have to if you're curious about what's inside. If you don't want to void the warranty or ruin the unit, don't try this at home. Yoo-hoo! Look at this. Wow. Yeah, it's a 2-piece. Some pretty cool engineering involved. Wow. This is some interesting construction. Okay, didn't expect this. Alright. Here we go. Well, if until now you might still have doubts about using Rose with a battery, now it's obvious that you can't. Control board and the main board. I like the way it looks. Well, I know some of you will ask about this anyway, so here's a close-up of what looks like the main DSP. And before I opened this pedal, I was curious whether a couple of regular MIDI connectors would fit in here, and yeah, there's plenty of space, so it's a pity that they didn't implement it. Alright, that's it, and once again, don't try this at home. Okay, I know you want to hear what the pedal sounds like, and we're almost there. And this is the setup I'm gonna be using for this demonstration. 3 pedals. Pride of Texas, which is my favorite overdrive. It goes right into Shift Line Twin preamp, which is a 1-channel, clean Fender-style preamp with built-in impulse response bass cabinet simulation. And Rose is connected into the effects loop right here. You can see send and return. Let's begin with a little sound check. For that, I've set mix to all wet and everything else to minimum. Sounds like this. There's a tiny delay. I actually wanted to show you how the sensitivity switch works. As you could hear, in the guitar mode, the sound was distorting, so in my specific situation when Rose is connected into the effects loop of a preamp, the line mode sounds cleaner. So I'm gonna keep it this way. Okay, now that the sound is fine, let's take a look at the delay section, which consists of these 3 knobs. Mix sets the amount of delay. Now it is full wet. This way it is full dry. I'll set it to 50%, such as we can hear both well. This knob sets the delay time, shorter on this end, and it's getting longer as you go clockwise. That's really long. And this is actually a double action knob, which means if you press it and turn it, that will switch between different time ranges. You can see them right here, and that goes from very, very short times that allow you to create like chorus or flanger effects like this, to very, very long times. If I go all the way, now you can hear it. There you go. Altogether there are 10 different time ranges and they overlap. So in normal mode this knob works as fine-tuning, and when pushed it becomes a quick adjustment. Now there are also these 2 buttons, Phi and Delta, which have something to do with delay. Delta is the delay multiplier, which makes delay time twice as long or 3 times as long. You can set that. For example, here is the normal delay time, and now twice as long. So you can do something like this. Phi switches between standard and reverse delay. Sounds like this. Phi also has a secondary function, and it applies to the shortest time range. In these settings, instead of reversing the sound of the repeats, it reverses the phase of the repeats, simply flaps the waveform upside down. Sounds like this. It is much more useful when the modulation is active though. The feedback knob controls the amount of repeats from 1 to, infinity, so it can go crazy and give you those infinite repeats if you want them, but be careful. So here's 1, here's more, here's even more, and now let's make it go crazy. Yep, and let me try to make something actually good out of it. It's gonna stay there forever unless I do something with it. Yeah, lots of fun. Alright, stop. The next thing on the list is the filter, or the low-pass filter. In this position it doesn't affect the sound, but the further you go clockwise, the less high end there is in the repeats, so you can emulate an analog delay. Sounds like this. The modulation section has two knobs which are self-explanatory. This one makes it faster or slower, and the other one makes it wider. And this is where things start getting crazy, because you can set different shapes for the modulation. Now it is sine, but there's also square, envelope that follows your plane, random, and external, which means it can follow an expression pedal or whatever you connect into here, even control voltage from the world of synths. And every shape has its own color of the rose. Let me dim the lights real quick to demonstrate that. Alright, we've just checked all the knobs and basic functions, and even with that, Rose already provides more sound possibilities than an average delay pedal. But we're about to dive deep into the world of Rose and find out that it is way more complex than we've just witnessed, so it's only gonna get crazier from here. Let's begin with the preset knob. The thing is, all the settings we've just dialed can be saved as a preset, and there are 5 banks with 5 presets each, so altogether it's 25 presets. Now let's go through a couple of factory presets real quick to show you what Rose is capable of. When I press the preset button, 2 LED letters show me the currently selected bank and preset. Bank on the right, preset on the left, so it is bank 1, preset 1. If I want to scroll through the banks, I just press the shape button, bank 2, bank 3, 4, 5, back to bank 1, and if I want to scroll through presets, I have to press preset button again, so it is preset 2, bank 1, preset 3, 4, 5, and back to 1. To load a new preset, pick one, let's say it's going to be bank 3, preset 2, wait a couple of seconds, and it gets activated. Guess what? You can do the same thing with foot switches, but it's kind of more confusing and unfortunately it doesn't follow the same logic. First you need to press both foot switches at the same time to go into the preset switching mode, and now instead of having the same logic, left one for presets, the right one for the banks, the hot switch will actually scroll through presets, which you can see here. And if you want to switch between banks, you have to hold the right switch, and then it goes to the, bank switching mode, and then you can scroll through the banks. Again, hold it to go back into the preset switching mode, to scroll through presets. And now to activate it, you need to press the active button. Very confusing. There is more. Every preset is actually 2 presets, because you can save 2 different set of settings, A and B, inside of one preset, and quickly switch between them with a hot switch. Just like that. Here's the A part of the preset. And B. The A-B switching can also be performed with an expression pedal or with an auxiliary switch. So altogether it's like 50 different presets, or 25 double presets if you will. Now what if, for some reason, you want your A and B settings to be the same? Then you can hold Phi and Delta buttons for a couple of seconds, and that will copy A to B. So now you can see that they are the same. And if you want to tweak both sub-presets simultaneously, you can do that by holding the Phi button and tweaking. So that will, let's say, the rate. Let's change the rate. Alright, so that changed rate for both A and B. Don't forget to save your settings. For that, hold the preset button, LEDs will flash. Now you can pick a bank. I'll just go to the same bank and preset. Preset 1, bank 1, hold it again. And now, as it flashes quickly, the preset is saved. The pedal has lots of hidden settings, and I really wish the shortcuts to those settings were briefly listed here on the front panel instead of these beautiful graphics, because they are impossible to memorize. Most of the times they don't follow any logic, so it would really make much more sense to have them written right here. In fact, let's fix it right now. That will do. Something like this would be absolutely sufficient. Now let's quickly go through these hidden settings. Delay multiplier. Now it is set to 2. But if I hold Delta button, I can set it to, I think, 3, 4, and 5. And you can also get some nice pitch shifting effects with it. Sounds evil. And at the end, press the active switch to confirm the changes and go back to normal. The next one, if I hold shape button for a while, I can set tap tempo division with the preset button or hot switch function with the shape button. Let's deal with the hot switch function first. Now it is in the AB mode, but it can be assigned to control Phi, Delta, tap tempo, infinite repeat, modulation hold, or modulation reset. Let's go back to tap tempo. Confirm, and here's how it works. So now the tap tempo is set to a quarter note, but it can also be set to an eighth, dotted eighth, or a triplet. Let's check the dotted 8. Speaking of the other hot switch functions, here is the infinite repeat. Modulation hold. and Modulation Reset. So every time I press the hot switch, it restarts the modulation from the beginning of its curve. The next two settings are meant for external controls, and that can be an expression pedal, a foot switch like this, CV, control voltage if you're a synth guy, or even a MIDI adapter. So let me plug this in real quick. The combination of active and delta buttons will tell the Rose what kind of controller you're using. Now it is set to an expression pedal, but it can also be modulation, MIDI or auxiliary switch. I'll stick to that for now. Expression and modulation modes can be used with the pedal, and here's the difference. In the expression mode, the pedal switches between A and B settings of the same preset, and in the modulation mode, the pedal controls the modulation when shape is set to this. I've demonstrated it earlier in this video. Hot switch and delta buttons together bring us into the foot switch settings, which can actually have 3 buttons, and you can select which one you're adjusting right now here. Or you can just press the one you want to adjust and Rose will pick it up. To each foot switch button, you can assign all the same functions as to the hot switch: tap tempo, infinite repeat, modulation hold, modulation reset, AB, Phi, delta, and a couple of preset switching functions. Let's set it to delta. And the last combination, active and Phi buttons together, leads into a big global settings menu where you can set bypass mode, MIDI channel, MIDI controller, and MIDI clock. The bypass can be set to buffered or active, which it is now, relay, which I believe is a true bypass, we'll check that later on, and the so-called input kill, which is another kind of active bypass. For each of them you can also toggle the kill dry option, which mutes the dry signal. That may be useful, for example, when Rose is connected into a parallel effects loop. The difference between the buffered and the input kill modes is in what happens with the delays when you disengage the effect. Here's an example of a buffered bypass. I disengage the effect and it's silent, there is no tail. Now let's switch into the input kill mode and do the same thing. When I disengage the effect, delays are still there. And just as I thought, the relay bypass looks a lot like true bypass. If you have no clue what I'm doing here, I have a video on how to figure out if the pedal is true bypass, and I will link it there for you. No matter what kind of bypass you go for, the dry part of the signal always stays analog and unaffected. I've done my regular tests and the latency is 0, so no need to worry about that. Other than the bypass mode, this combination also gives access to MIDI settings, for example, MIDI clock. Rose can follow whatever MIDI clock you send to it, and you can turn that off if you want to. Delta button sets MIDI expression controller, which is set to 7 by default, and shape sets the MIDI channel, which is set to 1 right now, but you can set it to anything from 1 to 16. I know it's not very transparent, but it works eventually. Eventide Rose can be connected to a computer and remotely controlled, and here's what the app that comes with it looks like. It provides a quick access to all the functions, and you can tweak everything from here. It also allows to backup and restore all presets and global settings and update the firmware. Apparently my device has the latest version installed. Rose also supports MIDI over USB, input and output, although only input is useful because Rose doesn't transmit anything into the output, so you cannot control other devices using Rose, but Rose can be controlled by other devices. I've tested that and that's exactly the way it works. Okay, we've almost reached the end, but before we get to the Rose ceremony, please leave forenoon foul in the comments below. We'll see how many of you made it this far. And here's a recap. Rose is a modulated delay that provides access to an unexpectedly wide range of parameters, making it a very flexible and unique pedal. Speaking of pros and cons, purists will love the fully analog dry path of this pedal. It also provides plenty of satisfaction tools for control freaks. But notice that Rose is quite heavy, and it would be great to have those secret combinations written somewhere on the pedal where we can actually see them. Wow, you've made it to the end of this video, and I'm very happy about that, because first I can say thanks, and second, not many people make it this far. It would be really great to hear back from you in the comments below, not necessarily about the topic of the video, but just, to say hi, for example. If for some reason you like what I do here on this channel and want to support me, there's Patreon, I'll give you a link to that in the description below, and other than that, subscribe or don't subscribe, whatever you feel like. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video someday soon.